topics. Next week, we're going to go over the campcraft, which is good places to camp, how to set up a camp, like bear bagging, things like that. And then we're also going to talk about water treatment another week. And the last week we'll talk about more about if you're going out with a group. So if you have a large enough group and you're in a state forest, it's still free, but you have to get a letter of authorization. And how do you plan ahead? And who do you call? And what do you do so you don't end up being the guy who cut his own arm off because nobody knows where he was? We'll talk about that. That'll be the last week. So that's kind of what the breakdown is, just so you know. So this week, we're doing backpacks, shelters, and sleep systems. And essentially, the idea is to give like a broad overview of what all this stuff is. So I'll try not to get like way too detailed, but just to give you an idea. Does that sound good? Right? So backpacks. So there's a bunch of different types of backpacks. And I like to use this photo as the example. Yeah. So, and the other thing I always tell everybody, there's two things I always tell everybody before I start talking is, so backpacking and hiking is my passion. It's what I do with my time, it's what I do with my life. So, if you see me like talk about all this crazy gear and everything, it's not that you necessarily need all that gear. I always joke like I don't own a home, but I tell people I own 6 homes because I have a whole bunch of different shelters. So it's like you don't have to have all the craziest stuff. It's just that's what I do, so I have it. Like gearhead, you might say. But with that said, I don't know if you guys go hiking like this or not, but it doesn't look super comfortable. It's just a fun picture. I don't know how to tell you that. So and those 2 black canisters are bear canisters, which means they're filled with food. And then he has probably like a 8 to 10 pound tent on the very top of his pack. I guess it's a sleeping bag on the bottom. But that doesn't really happen too much anymore in today's world. So what he's probably using is an external frame pack. Right? So everyone is familiar with most people probably. External frame packs are really good for certain uses. So what they're good at is you can pack them really high, put a whole bunch of weight on them. Okay? The way it works out with the geometry is this bar essentially will stay centered over your hips. And so you're kind of carrying this load directly over top of you. And the way the balance works out, you have to pack it high. The way the balance works out is that a lot of that transfers to your hips and you don't feel that weight. So the other, like on the flip side, the problem with that is that you have a whole bunch of weight that's far away from your body. So your center of gravity is all messed up, right? So what they do, even in like the White Mountains, if you guys have been up there to those huts and stuff like that, they'll have those college interns, or well, I guess they do, college kids at work all summer, and they'll throw like 40-pound boxes on an external frame pack, and like multiple ones. These kids are carrying like up to 100 pounds, and they'll climb up to those huts to carry gear. But they'll use trails that aren't super rocky, that you don't lose your balance, and that aren't really enclosed, because this guy is not walking through Dead Wild Run. Like, he's not going to fit through that trail. So these are good, but if you're on a rocky path like Pennsylvania, or narrow trails like Pennsylvania, they typically, you'll have a really difficult time. Okay, does that make sense? So that's external frame pack. And like I said, like we don't even stock them here at Appalachian Outdoors. We can order them for folks, but we don't get the demand. It's just not really that popular in this area. But it is a thing, they are still useful. They're good packs. It's not a pack, it's not good. And this, just a side note, is my friend's pack. He dropped it off today. This was his mother's pack from when she was young. So he said apparently this thing's like 50 or 60 years old. It's kind of cool. It's still in good shape. But what you do with these is you don't have a lot of volume in here. So like this guy, you strap everything to the outside. That's kind of the idea. And then newer type, which most folks are probably also familiar with, is an internal frame pack. Okay? So the idea with this, it does have a lightweight frame, but everything is inside, and you have a whole lot of space on the inside of the pack. So you try to keep everything tight, keep everything on the inside. I have another photo. So that's the same pack, but 60 liters from like, I don't know, 8 years ago. So that thing is totally packed out. My sleeping pads don't fit in my Crocs, but everything else is inside your pack. So if you are scrambling on rocks and stuff like that, you don't have to worry about, oh, did that part of my pack fall off? Did my sleeping bag fall off? Right? And just as another thing, like you guys are looking to buy a pack between internal frame packs, especially if you have children or if you're still growing. Some of them you can adjust the length, and this is another really important part. There is a length for packs, which is the size. It's extra small, small, medium, large, extra large. And there's a capacity or a volume. So this is a 70-liter pack, size small. So it's for a small torso, which is from your iliac crest to your C7, so just your torso. But it's a 70-liter pack, so you can take it out for a week. I've taken it out for 5 days, like winter mountain here, and I have the same pack. So that's always difficult, it's like I want a large pack. There's two different ways to size it up. But with a lot of internal frame packs, and some external frame packs as well, you can adjust the length, right? So if this fits for me, but I have a friend, if this fits for me, but I have a friend who has a longer torso, these ones are Velcro. You can make the pack longer, right? So same thing, like super valuable if you have kids that are growing, or if you have a partner who's significantly different torso than you, and you don't go out at the same time, I guess. A friend, maybe. The other cool thing about some of these packs, like this is a huge pack, but Osprey has a compression system. Osprey's the company. So if the pack is empty, which I've used a lot and it works really well. So if you're out on a 5-day trip, or if you're out on a multi-week trip, so you have this thing's loaded up when you leave town. Say you stop at State College, you load up food, and you're on the Mid-State Trail, and you're not going to go. Your next stop is Woolwich. It's like a week away, so your pack's loaded up the first 3 days. And then when you're getting into Woolwich and you're super hungry and you want some beer if you're able to drink it, and your pack's empty, if you guys are familiar with, like, if you have your backpack from school and stuff's just bouncing around and it's super annoying, so you can compress it down so it's almost flat. So it's still a little bit of an overkill for a day pack, but you can use this as a day pack, or at least a weekend pack. You won't have too much space. The other thing these do, which is super cool, you gotta take that off too. This is a fanny pack or waist pack. So the idea being, you go out to Rothrock and you camp at Greenwood Furnace for the day or for the night, and then the next day you want to keep your tent and everything there, and you just want to go on a day hike. You don't have to take this huge pack. You can just take like your first aid essentials and some water and snacks. So it's kind of like that, it's maybe like a minivan, like it does anything you want, right, in any situation. So that's an internal frame pack. Like I said, it's adjustable, and you size it for your torso length, and then it has a carrying capacity. Most folks want between 50 liters and 70 liters for what they're doing, average. If you're doing winter stuff, you might want 75 to 80 liters. Some folks, they still make like 90 and 100 liter packs. That might be if you're a guy and you're out for a long period of time, you have a bunch of extra clothes for other people. But it's the same thing as a house or an apartment, you need space for the gear that you have. So if you have all this really lightweight gear, you don't need a huge pack, and vice versa.
Is that pack the same as the one that you're wearing?
That is the original one. The first year they made it, it's called and that's a 60 liter pack. That's the Ether 60, and this is the Ether 70.
So that holds more than that.
Yes, this is 10, same size, they're both small, but this is 10 liters larger than carrying capacity. And that was, this photo's from 2009, but I bought the pack in 2005. So this is 10 years old, slightly under. So then they're also coming out like hybrids, which is all the rage right now. So this, you can see the frame, this white frame. It goes the entire way around the pack, it comes up through here. So it's similar to the external frame pack, right? And I have some space here, so the pack isn't directly against my back, so I don't get super soaking wet with sweat every time you go out. You still get sweaty, but it's not nearly as bad. And then once again, the issue with that is the weight is further off your back. The example I always use is like, I don't know, say like a gallon of water or watermelon. You're holding a watermelon like this. A, it feels kind of heavy, and B, if someone pushes you, you're going to fall over. If you're carrying a watermelon like this, it doesn't feel nearly as heavy, and it's harder to push me over, so all my center of gravity is directly against my body. Does that make sense? So with these ones, same thing, you have to pack the weight a little bit higher just because of the center of gravity, and it's a little bit further off than the weight. But you do get some breathability back here, okay? Generally speaking, with every time you pack a pack, you want the weight, the most weight in between your shoulder blades, as a general rule. That's why they have the water reservoirs, that's why there's always right hanging from the top of the pack on the inside. So same idea, just always think about that, like, wow, I got this 10-pound tent way back here, like I'm pulling that along. Or if you have it directly against your back, it's resting on your body. So this is a really lightweight pack, and I cut straps. There is a lid, I've never used it once. It's funny if you look at the lid, this pack used to be silver. But I cut straps and all that fun stuff. But what's interesting about this, because it's lightweight, the shoulder harness is sewn in. So if you have a small torso, you're welcome to borrow my pack. Otherwise, it's not going to fit you. There's no adjustability. If I grow somehow, it's not going to fit me, right? So it's one of those things, like, this is, like I was saying in the beginning, I have a quiver of backpacks, and this is a very specific backpack that I use in spring and summer when I go lightweight backpacking. I have another backpack for the winter, and I have a couple other ones as well. But if you're looking for the all-around, something that's more adjustable is probably better. Your issue is it's a heavier backpack, it's more expensive, all that good stuff. Probably about it for this.
How many pounds are you looking at backpack?
So, like the pack itself.
Yeah.
The external frame ones are probably like 4 to 5 pounds. It's just a frame, they're not super heavy. But then you're adding all your own straps and things like that. This pack, I think is 4.5. Yeah, 4.5. Like 5 pounds is heavy in today's world. This pack, I think, is under 3 pounds. I personally won't carry a pack that's under 3 pounds unless it's like I'm guiding people or it's a winter trip. Just because. But typically, like 3 to 4 pounds, probably average. So there's a couple more. There's a frameless, or types of packs called frameless packs. And I don't have any good examples for you. I have a couple poor photos. So you'll notice the mesh on the outside. So these packs are typically smaller in capacity, and ultralight people or super ultralight folks will use them. They're bigger than this. This is just the example I have. And I did this in class last week. Pretend this is like a mini pack, right? So what you do, pack is frameless. So you don't have the weight of the frame, right? But when you have weight in it, they'll collapse away from you, like clamshell away from your back. And I had frameless pack once, and it was too big for me. And it was doing that. I actually had back spasms in the middle of the desert in California. I had to like lay down for a day and a half. It was like, I had never had back spasms before, so that was really freaking out. And yeah, I was like, I think I broke myself. So if they fit you well, it works, and a lot of ultralight folks use them. But big companies don't make them because it's kind of that, like, the general person will just pick it up and put it on and be like, this isn't right. And then they'll send it back or complain. So a lot of these companies, like Mountain Laurel Designs, it's a guy in his basement in, I think, North Carolina. And he makes really specific stuff, and it's really good if it's what you want. And so anyway, what folks will do, if this were my sleeping pad, if I was very short, this was my sleeping pad, and this was my backpack, you make a little pocket or a sleeve, and you put it in here, and now you at least have a soft frame that gives you some structure. So rather than carrying a sleeping pad and a frame, you carry a sleeping bag that's also a frame, and then you fill it out. Does that make sense? So like I said, it's a very niche thing. Through here, like my one friend, his trail name is Lint. He just completed his triple crown. So he's hiked the Appalachian Trail, the Pacific Crest Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail 3 times each, which is like 30,000 miles. Not in a row, but within the last like 10, 15 years. He uses one of these packs. And so they are smaller, and my point earlier with the mesh is rather than having these crazy compression straps that I was telling you about for when your pack is empty, you have a small pack that expands when you need to fill it up. So they'll throw food in that for the first 3 days and just grab food as they go, and then the pack gets smaller as you take stuff out of it. Is that, it's kind of hard to visualize just from this photo, but does that make sense? Okay. And then the last thing with packs is sizing. So, there's a size chart and a little tool. Every company has it. It's like shoes. You're generally going to be that size, but every company it might be slightly different. And luckily, you have a gear shop in town that all the employees are trained and experienced on how to size you. But essentially, this goes around your hips, and the idea with packs is that your hips are bones, and bones don't fatigue, right? Your hip flexors are muscles, and you use them to walk, and they will get tired. So you have you have ribs, and then you have nothing, and then you have hips. And then, to generalize, guys will wear their pants down, right? So like my pants are here, my hips are up here, my ribs are way up here. So if you have the pack too low down here, you're inhibiting your ability to walk, which is what you're trying to do. And your muscles get really tired. So you want the weight on your hips, which means it's super high up, and your hips are a shelf, right? So you want that weight on your hips like a shelf. Now it does make you look like you have a gut. That's okay. I have a gut anyway. So you make that pretty tight. So now see how this is standing straight up and it's not even on me? That's the idea, is the weight is transferring from here into my hips. There's no weight in it. So that's where you want it. And it is kind of on your diaphragm. It's a little weird with breathing at first and stuff like that. So you put it on like that. And then if it's the correct size pack, if there's weight on it, once again, these shoulder straps should kind of, that's weird, I made it longer, these should cup on your shoulder as if someone's hand is pressing down on your shoulder. You don't want it just touching here and like pushing you back, and you don't want it, if you tighten this one too much, it will be a huge space here. Now, like I said, this is too long right now anyway, but if you do this, the pressure will be on your trapezoid, like your neck muscles, and you'll notice that strain after a while. That's the thing, it's always hard to tell, but it's like you gotta have it up. And then if you're breathing really heavily, or you're climbing uphill, you can loosen this up and put more of the weight on your shoulders. And then when your shoulders fatigue, you can put more weight back on your hips. So you can adjust where the weight is on your back, which is super cool. The other thing I say to everybody is, so this is what everybody does. Don't feel bad if you think I'm making fun of you. They put the stuff on, and they do this, right? So I just closed my chest cavity, and you close this down, so now I'm looking straight at the ground, and and this thing's like on my back. I can't move, and I can't breathe either, right? So it's like it's hard. Yeah, it's like if you guys are bicyclists and you see people biking around with flat tires, you're just like, oh man, you could be having so much more fun. So the idea is, this does nothing for you in terms of carrying weight. This sternum strap is just keeping the shoulder straps from being wider than I want them, or feeling like they're falling off of my shoulders. It's just keeping these in place. So I tell everyone is you fill up your lungs, take a deep breath. So when you're working really hard going up a hill, you're gonna have space to do that, and then make this snug. And then you're generally good. Now if the pack is way too big, you might have to make it tight. I know a lot of folks that don't use this ever. There's some folks that cut these off. Most of them come with whistles now, which is cool. But just so you know, that's like a quick little pack fit thing. And like I said, we have these pack fitters, which are super awesome, and it gives you an idea. Generally speaking, you'll usually, if you're in between a small and a medium, if you have like 18, 19-inch torso, generally speaking, we usually size folks down because a lot of the packs you can make longer, where you don't have to tighten. So it's that classic thing. You can make it long. It's like winter. You can put more clothes on. Summer, you can only take so many layers off. So you can make a pack longer. You can't really make it shorter. And generally speaking, again, they make the straps appropriate to a small, medium, large. So a lot of times, I feel like they're pretty forgiving, but some body types you do need to size differently for your waist size. Last thing with packs, so I have a 17.5-inch torso. My friend Kim, who worked here years ago, she has a few national championship rings from playing with the women's volleyball team at Penn State. She has a 17.5-inch torso. I'm 5'6", she's 6'3". It doesn't matter how tall you are, it's just strictly your torso. Some people are all legs, some people are all torso, some people are happy medium. So, like I said, just, you can roughly assume, but she was 6'3" and she wears a small pack. So, don't just say, oh, I'm a small person, I probably wear small. I might just not have legs. So, that's packs, if that's all right. Kind of on time, actually. So, next thing is some bags. Yeah, some bags. Oh, pack covers, yeah. So pack covers, the packs are not waterproof. A few of them are, but they're a lot heavier, and then the zippers have to be waterproof, so they're a lot heavier. And I know it's a weird concept, like I'm going to spend $300 on something that's not waterproof, but there's so many holes just from stitching. It's going to be super expensive and really heavy to get a waterproof pack. So, two options. You can buy a pack cover that's just a piece of silicone nylon or nylon that's water resistant, and water will run off of it, and it fits on the outside of your pack. Those work well. They're like $30 to $40. They're cool unless you're on the mountaintop and it blows away. And you're like, ah. Not only are you leaving, you're littering, but it's also like, you just lost $40 in the wind. But they typically work really well. The other option, and I always say this for folks if they're buying packs for their kids, or if they don't know if they're really into backpacking or not, you can use a garbage bag, right? So you line the inside of your pack, put a garbage bag in first, and then put all of your gear in. And then you're typically okay. Some folks will do that no matter what and use a pack cover, but it's a 5-cent option rather than a $30 option. Once again, if you're going to go out a lot and you're going to invest in this, you might as well not waste all those garbage bags and just buy a pack cover. But it works fine. I lost my pack cover, or I ripped it actually like a year ago and I haven't bought it yet. It's garbage bags.
Osprey has the hydration packs that are gender specific. Is there any?
Yeah, that's a good question. Gender specific is usually they will shape the hip belts differently, and they will the curvature of the shoulder straps. I think shoulder straps might typically be narrower as well. So they're trying to, shape it for shape of different genders. With that said, I know a couple dudes who use, like my housemate uses a women's pack, fits him fine. He has no issues. So I haven't personally really tried on these bags, so. But I think they do canter the hips differently. So yeah.
Once you've got your pack on the outside, do you use like a compression sack on the inside to organize it that way?
You can, and that's, everybody does it differently. I use Ziploc bags for a lot of stuff, which are technically kind of heavy, but it keeps it waterproof. And stuff sacks. There's also, you can just stuff your sleeping bag in and then stuff your tent on top. And then you're safe, because when you have all these stuff sacks, you have a lot of dead space and you can't fill all those cracks. So it's two different thoughts. I don't know which is better. I don't know. So I guess for me, it would depend on the weekend. If it's definitely going to rain, I'm going to take the stuff sacks and the garbage bag. If it's not supposed to rain, I might just stuff it. Yeah, once again, put your light, bulky stuff on the bottom because it takes up space and it's not heavy. So your sleeping bag, your tent, your mesh and things like that. And then put your food, your water, all the heavy stuff in the middle to the upper part of the bag. So it's kind of in between. Anybody else? So sleeping bags would be probably pretty quick. Oh, and if you guys want these docs, I'm happy to share them with you. You can throw your email on here. If you want to put your name, that's cool. I don't care if you don't. But I can share their Google Docs. I can share them with you. So I do have like the essential gear list. It's kind of cool. And I'll have some other templates in the next couple of weeks too. So sleeping bags. Generally speaking, there's two types of fill sleeping bags. Does anybody know what two types are?
Synthetic and down.
Synthetic and down. So a synthetic bag. This is a synthetic bag. This is a women's bag. It's a 15-degree bag. So synthetic bags generally are heavier than down bags. They are better in wet conditions than down bags, and they are less expensive than down bags. The fourth thing is they do not compress as well as down bags, so they take up more space in your bag. So it's if you have one of those older like cloth bags or just an older sleeping bag in general, it might not fit in one of the packs that folks typically use today. So I tried to kind of compare this stuff all evenly. So this is a 15-degree bag. This is a women's bag. Women's bags are shorter. Typically a women's regular is like 5'6", and I think a women's long is 5'10" or maybe 6 feet. Men's regular is 6 feet, and then men's long is 6'6". You don't want it to be super tight if it's not comfortable, and if it's cold, you want to throw your gear in the bottom of your bag so it doesn't freeze overnight. It's really annoying to put on frozen pants. You guys have never experienced that. So, just generally speaking, with synthetic bags, and a lot of bags now have some type of water repellency on the outside that lasts for a while. It's just a chemical. A lot of times it's a spray. It doesn't last forever. But if you're out in the rain all day today, it doesn't really matter unless it's a completely waterproof bag. Your stuff's going to get wet. So if you were taking a nap today, you would get wet. Your bag would be soaked. If it's a synthetic bag, synthetic materials, even when they're wet, still have some insulation value. I don't really know what the exact percentage is. It's not great, but it will keep you kind of right. A down bag, and I always use the example. It's kind of grosses people out though. Anybody ever drop a roll of toilet paper into a toilet or a sink? And you know how it just clumps up and it's like weighs like 10 pounds? That's what happens to down products when they get drenched as well. And they are super heavy, and the feathers clump up, and it looks like, I always bring this, it looks like toilet paper. And it's just like they get super heavy, and you have zero insulation value. So, no, like you need to go home before it gets cold again, right? So those are like some of the main differences. And then just to back up, like bags in general, you can have a full zip bag. So your zipper runs almost the whole way down, which is nice because if you're like me and you can't really fall asleep without something over top of you, you can have this over top of you without being completely bundled up. But zippers are heavy. So a lot of summer bags that are trying to be lighter weight than their competitors will only have a half zip. Which is super cool, but like I said, I found out the hard way. It's like now you're stuck in this bag even if it's 90 degrees outside. Unless if you can sleep down. So the other thing about sleeping bags is not always summer bags, because it's not being cold isn't a concern, but usually 3-season bags and fall, winter, spring bags will have it's called a draft collar or a draft tube. So idea being, if you just have a zipper here, this is a dead zone. There's no insulation where the zipper is. Think about like your insulated jackets. There's no insulation where that zipper is. And so what they do is they have a collar or a tube here. So idea being, when this is zipped, there's still a barrier behind it with insulation. And it doesn't seem like a big deal oftentimes, but like the last 2 winters we've had, you might have noticed like the day where it's -10 and windy, you probably feel the wind going through your zipper. Why am I cold like here? The rest of my body's alright, because it is a dead zone. There's no insulation. Some other bags that are nice will also have collars around here. So you have a collar here so your heat doesn't escape from your chest. And you can like cinch them down so you can make it tight if you want. And then they'll have a separate one here that makes the mummy tight over your hood. And what a lot of companies are getting into now, which I think is super cool. So for instance, the one here in this bag that goes around your collar is round, and the one that goes around your hood, I know they're in different spots, but is flat. So if they were in the same spot and it's the middle of the night and you're trying to get out of your pack because you just realize you really have to use the bathroom, you can remember which one you need to do. Which doesn't seem like a big deal now, but if you've ever been sick in the woods, sometimes you need to get out quickly. So yeah, that's a synthetic bag. Like I said, this is a 15-degree bag. And to give you an idea,
What exactly is 15 degrees outside, or?
so yeah, it's a great question. 15 degrees, it's called EN rating, which I don't remember what that stands for. But generally what they'll do is they'll put a tube in, that mimics a person. And I don't know if they probably use water, because the specific heat of water is like the best in the world. It stays, the same temperature. So they'll run water through this at 98 degrees. And I think what they do is, when does that, or how long, whatever the rate is, like how long does it take for that to cool down, or at what temperature does it cool down? And what they've come up with is generally an average. What a lot of companies are getting into now is like, it's a 15-degree bag, so they'll say maybe that's where you're comfortable, and then they'll have like a limit where your cold might be 5 degrees, and then they'll do a limit where it's extreme, which means you may get frostbite, but you're probably not going to die, and that'll be like -20. And I find that to be more confusing now than what they used to do, because sometimes, like one company, I just had a friend call, she's like, I thought I bought a 0-degree bag. Apparently the 0-degree, it's billed on the website as a 0-degree bag, but that's your cold but your okay temperature. Personally, I think that's false advertising, because it must be cold. Typically what I say is like, I would use a 15-degree bag fall and spring, and then maybe in a, what used to be a typical winter in Pennsylvania with some other warm gear. And I'll use like a 30 to maybe 40 or 45-degree bag in the summer. And I'm typically a warm person, so I usually rate, if I think it's going to be 30 degrees out, I'll take a 15-degree bag, because it's easier. Same thing with packs. It's easier to unzip your sleeping bag than to shiver to keep it warm. But yeah, the rating thing is really difficult, because and the reason it's so difficult, everyone has a different rate of metabolism, so everyone thinks it's warm or cold. I will say with women's bags, they usually have more insulation and stuffing in the foot box. And I think maybe the head area as well. But typically they're shorter and sometimes they're more petite fit. So then an example, if this is 15 So this is a 15-degree bag, 2015, synthetic. This is the stuff sack, right? And then my 15-degree bag that I bought in 2005, that's down. This is the stuff sack. So significantly smaller. This only weighs 2 pounds. I don't know how much this weighs. This weighs over 4 pounds, so twice as heavy. Takes up twice as much space. This is $400. This is $128. Big difference. And to give you the rating thing, just for how Marmot does it, so they're saying comfort for this, it's a 15. It says right here, 15 degrees. It's embroidered on there. Your comfort is 23.7 degrees Fahrenheit. Your lower limit is 11.8 degrees Fahrenheit, and your extreme limit is negative 22.5. Extreme is a survival rating for a standard boat, so apparently you'll survive. And then the lower limit, the 11.8, is based on a standard man as the lowest temp to have a comfortable ice. So I don't know where they get the average of 23, 11, and negative 22, but they come up with 15. So it is a difficult thing to figure out. And I think, same thing, I don't think they're trying to lie. It's a difficult thing to do. To rate. That's a synthetic bag. So then a down bag. Down you want to fluff up. Like the whole thing with down is the feathers puff out and they trap the warm air. But generally you're going to have the same idea. So this is also a 15-degree bag. But how North Face does it, the comfort's 26, the limit is 15, and the extreme is negative 19. So they're giving you that medium. They're giving you that middle comfort range. But with down, the only thing I have to say about down is I love it. I have 4 sleeping bags. They're all down. And I've been out twice in the last 10, 11 years. I've done 11,000 miles of hiking. And 2 nights, I've gotten my bag so wet that I had to go to the next day. And one was in an ice storm in January in the Kohana area. And I got super cold. I ended up, because the snow melted, so I ended up in a puddle. And my buddy had to cook me breakfast because I was in trouble. I had no dexterity. And I woke up in the morning and said, I think we need to go pool. So it was a long while. I don't even remember. I know there was a second time. The second time, it was the same thing. It was like, okay, my bag got soaked last night. I think I didn't take a shelter because I'm dumb like that. It wasn't supposed to rain, and I just got drenched. It was still in the summer, but it was like, okay, I'm going home today. But typically speaking, you can get these wet. They can get condensation on them. You'll be okay. They might lose some of their puffiness as the week or weekend goes on. But you throw them in the dryer, low heat with some tennis balls, and they fluff back up. So I just feel like the same thing I always tell folks: if you don't care about your gear, or you're giving it to your young kids or teenagers, and there's a likelihood they're going to throw it in a lake, get synthetic. But if it's an investment, you care about it, I would go with down. Because like I said, this smells. That's why I've been holding it back here. Done a lot of sleeping in this. This is 10 years old, a 15-degree bag, just like that one. Still pretty puffy. Now, I don't use it in the winter anymore. This is now like my fall and spring. It's probably like a 30-degree bag now, because I have lost a lot of feathers. This was $400 in like October of 2005. Pretty sure I got my money out of it, and it's still fine. But same thing, I do take care of it. So, this one's a half zip, just to give you an idea. So this is a half zip. So same thing, if I'm hot, this is hot all the time. It's light, it's 2 pounds.
So long-term storage.
I've read where the down, their sacks.
Yeah, you don't want to do that with pretty much any of your gear, but especially sleeping bags. So they typically come with this, which is a storage sack. So at the least, you want to store it this way. I hang mine in my closet. But yeah, you don't want to compress that ball. It's not as bad with synthetics, but you still don't want to do that. And even with all this gear, because it just helps to deteriorate. When they get creases in them forever, you go out twice a year and it's had this one crease in that one spot, and then you rip it apart, and then you're like, why is it leaking? So I have huge Tupperware bins that I throw my stuff in. And I don't hang them. I live in a very small space. But I don't keep it in my stuff sacks. So just don't make it as tiny as possible. Yeah.
That looks really small.
This?
What is the theory? You sleep like a mummy and you don't move?
Yeah, it's a mummy bag. Yeah.
Don't move.
Well, you can unzip it and kind of use it as a blanket most of it if it's warm. But if you're cold, yeah, the idea is that you keep all of your heat within your body. So you can do it. I have a friend, she's like a professional backpacker. Her name's Snorkel. Because she sleeps in her bag. Everyone's like, do you need a snorkel? Like, are you okay? Like, are you breathing? But yeah, they are pretty tiny. And same thing, it's always a thing like, you don't have to use these. It's just, you're going to carry more weight, have more space. It's just whatever your goals are. Anybody else? Sleeping bags? So sleeping pads, generally 3 different types. Closed cell foam, right? So this is foam. Keeps cold ground here, warm body here. It's a very good insulator. These are like $40, somewhere around there. They're very lightweight, but they don't compress, right? So I use these all the time, and it does stick out of my pack. And there's some leave no trace issues with that. If I rip this and now I'm littering in the woods and I don't even know it. But every time you take a break, all you have to do is this. You can sit down on whatever. If it's rhododendron or blueberry bushes, or if you're in the desert, if you puncture this, it's okay. It's also a really easy soft splint. So if you or someone else breaks something, wrap this around first before you put on like a hard, like sticks or trekking poles, stuff like that. Closed cell phone. So this stuff does work, but it rubs off about 5 or 6 nights into it. So they sell ones that are $5 cheaper. My buddy told me to get this, so he works here as well. I gave the best explanation. I said, "Is it worth it?" He said, "There's about $5 silver stuff on it, yes." But the idea is that is keeping you from the cold ground. And if anyone's ever sat in the cold ground, actually, a better example that I always use is bleachers. So you go to a really cold sporting event and you're on metal bleachers, and you have like 40 jackets on and blankets and hot coffee and hot cocoa, and you can't figure out why you're cold because all of your heat is leaving your butt and going into these metal bleachers. It's just the way heat transfers. So I'm that guy who shows up at sporting events with my little sitting pad. I'll be wearing like a vest and be like, "Are you freezing?" So these are super cool, by the way. And they have ones that inflate as well, which you kind of slide off. But so yeah, that's closed cell phone. And then you have open cell phone, which they make a few different kinds, but I like this example. These are the best, I think, because you see these diamonds. So there's foam inside of here, and they cut out foam in diamonds, which makes it more compressible and lighter weight. And same thing, they make, of course that's more expensive because they have to have machines to do that. But this stuff, it's going to be heavier. The R value, which is a ratio of warmth, is similar to the closed cell phone. These are about $80, $90, $100, so twice as expensive. But this, and I don't know, this seems really big. I know the stuff sacks are smaller. But stuff sacks, they're saying typically, you can fit it in about a liter, like a Nalgene. But I think this is the one that they just send with the product. But still a lot smaller than the closed cell phone.
And that self-inflate.
Generally, yes. So, I was like, oh, I see that. So self-inflating, probably put like 2 or 3 breaths in it if you want it to be pretty solid. But yeah, you throw it out, give it 5-10 minutes, and it will be 80% there. So those work pretty well. And same thing, they do make ones that are more square. It's just one grab. And they're rather durable, not bad at all. Same thing, my parents bought one for me when I was 8, and it finally got a bubble and delaminated like 3 years ago. It would be 34 soon. So it lasted like 25 years. It was like the first million that they made, which was kind of cool. But just a little program. So the last thing I brought is, this is called the Neo Air. This is just, it's not just air, but it's generally just air. So this one, I have a short that I use. For me, it's 8 solid breaths. So a regular like this is probably like a dozen breaths, full breaths to fill it up. It does not fill up on its own. So that bothers everybody. It's really, when you're laying down, it's not bad. If you do this, it's bad, but when your whole body is on it, it's not that big of a deal. And so what these do, I don't know if you can see it. I have one that's pretty worn down. You can see it really well. It has 2 sheets. They say it's, like crazy space age material. It looks like aluminum foil, but there's 2 sheets that are suspended on the inside of this. So it's kind of like the baked potato idea. So the silver shiny end is going out into the ground, so it's keeping the cold away from you. And they have another silver shiny end this way that's keeping your warmth on you. And you can honestly feel it. You lay down, you can feel the warmth coming back up. You feel the packet. It's kind of crazy. $160. And this time, right? So if you're really into it, this is cool. If you don't feel like spending $160, don't buy it.
Pop one hole.
Done. Yeah.
One function.
And I mean, there's like field repair kits and stuff like that, but yeah, it's functional. And the other thing is, I'm really worried about it, so I only use mine in the wintertime. And I'll put my closed cell phone pad down first, and then I'll put, that's why I have the little short, so I just curl up in the fall and winter, and it keeps me warm. We haven't had, that I know of, many people bring these back saying that they were punctured. So I am personally paranoid about it, because I spent a whole lot of money on it, but at the same time, as far as I know, we haven't heard a lot of negative feedback about it. So, but yeah, if you go out in the wintertime, and you have all this puffy gear and space is an issue, and you're doing mountaineering stuff, and you really need to be warm, it can be worth it too. So it's an option. Not all of them are $60. That's generally like 3 categories of sleeping pads. Whatever you do, make sure you have a sleeping pad. It doesn't matter if it's 80 degrees outside. The earth is not 98 degrees like you are, and it will suck your heat away from you. See, I'm being paranoid about how much I'll put it on the food, especially if it's on the side. Is that cool? Yeah.
Question back to the R rating for the thermarest. I just bought the trail light, not the pro light,
Yes.
but the trail
Yep.
light. And it has a 3.4 R rating, and it says it's a strong, long 3 season.
Right.
But I'm wondering, what, it has a little gauge on it, but it doesn't really specify what that 3.4 means with the temperature.
Yeah.
Do you know what the rest system is?
I think typically it's I would say 4 or 4.5 and up would be winter.
Winter, okay.
But at the same time, I've taken my closed cell phone pad out at 10,000 feet in the Rockies in the wintertime and been all right.
Yeah.
You need to, it's just that thing, you are going to lose.
Right.
You need a warmer bag then.
I know this is a lot thicker. I had a previous model of a pro light that my brother had given me, and this is twice as thick, and I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but I can just tell it's going to be a lot more warmth.
Yeah.
And I've used that in late into the fall and early in the spring at
You're completely
20-degree temperatures,
Yeah.
so I know this is going to be
right. It should be
pretty
okay.
good, yeah.
And same thing, the thicker ones are typically warmer, and a lot of folks like that feeling that you're more like in a bed, like on a mattress, not just on the ground. I've heard that, but a lot of folks like that. I will say, if you're sleeping with a friend, close friend, if you got this really thick mattress and your friend's on the ground, it is kind of like, hey, where are you at? So that's always kind of weird. So shelters, couple different kinds of shelters. Bring that up. So, freestanding shelter, right? So it's a freestanding tent. It stands freely without having to stake it out. Now, if you do, it's a double wall tent, which means you have a wall here, and then you have a rain fly, which is separate, and that's your second wall, so a double wall tent, double wall freestanding. Super cool, especially like state parks in Pennsylvania. I don't know why, but they make you sleep on gravel. I just don't get it. It's like, oh yeah, let's go camping on a gravel surface. If you don't have a free, if you have a non-freestanding where it's not, it doesn't stand on its own, it's hard to get the stakes into a gravel surface. If you're trying to sleep on rocks, it's hard to set that up. There are ways you can get around it, but just that's a big difference. So this tent, I think it's like 4.5, 5 pounds, something like that. This is a similar tent. So this is kind of the amount of space it's going to take up in your pack, just to give you an idea. This tent is different company, obviously, but very much the same structure. The difference is, this is all going to be similar, and then on the one side of it, this spine does not splay out here. You guys can see this. So this spine is just one spine going down to the middle. So essentially, it's not going to stand up on its own. So you need to have to be able to stake out the corners. So that's non-freestanding, right? Just nomenclature. So that tent you set up with trekking poles, and it comes with a tiny little pole in the back, and that is a single wall tent, meaning we tried to set it up on the floor, meaning this is the whole tent. There's not a mesh part and a rain fly. There's one wall. So grab that corner just to make it kind of taut. So it's going to be difficult for us to visualize, but this is essentially, this is the front of the tent here, and that's the ground. So there's just one wall, and then under here, if you hold that, under here they'll have some mesh. So you should get some breathability through there. But it's just one wall. So the rest of it is waterproof. Really awesome in arid environments where you're not worried about condensation. Not so great in humid environments because you're gonna sweat. It's like being in a sweat box. But just wanted to try to give you that example. So a lot lighter weight. You don't need, you don't have to take 2 layers. And with this one in particular, you just need 2 trekking poles and a bunch of stakes. But same thing, like we really couldn't set it up on this wooden floor. Like you can't set it up on a rock. Let's use rock anchors and stuff like that. But this is stuff sack. So just a different option. And then another option is your 8-ounce poncho tarp, right? So I use this a lot. And I'm a small guy, I realize this, but that's my poncho tarp. And that's actually, I got caught a nasty storm that night. You guys remember 2 summers ago in June, we had all those really bad thunderstorms, like for 2 weeks in a row. I was backpacking those 2 weeks, it was great. So I set up with my trekking poles, and I curl up in a little ball, and when it storms outside, I lower my trekking poles so the wind doesn't blow my little tarp over. And it weighs 8 ounces, and I just need to take some stakes and work. So I did get caught once in the Susquehannock Trail, and like kind of like a rain like today, like it rained for 2 days in a row, and I was in this thing for 30 hours, and all I had was my guidebook, and that was not really a fun. It was like type 2 fun. It was not a fun weekend. So I'm not saying this is like nearly as good as that tent. It's just trying to give different examples. But hammocks, I can't do hammocks. I sleep on my side, I roll out of hammocks every time I try. But my housemate, a bunch of people use them. Does anybody here hammock? Yeah. So I hear it works really well, but the idea, and what I guess a lot of folks don't think about, is you are exposed 360 degrees to the cold air, to the breeze. So you need not only a pad, but you need a pad that comes up around your hammock. Is that correct? You guys agree with that? That's why
I just use a regular sleeping pad.
just a regular pad? Okay, cool.
I've never had a regular sleeping pad, and I have a North Face 20 degree
Okay.
bag.
Nice.
And I've
Been pretty good.
been out in early spring and late autumn, and it, like I said, probably down to like low 20s, and
Oh, nice. Cool.
I haven't had any issues.
Okay.
So
Yeah, my
I'm
housemate-
fun. I'm layered up, and I've got
Right,
my
right,
Arc'teryx
yeah.
beating.
You gotta
and-
bundle
you know what I
up,
mean?
yes,
Like
yeah.
I'm not sleeping in my undies or anything, but you know, I'm comfy.
Okay. Yeah, because that's generally what I've been told, is that you gotta just block that wind somehow, for 360 degrees.
And you can use your, you can use your rain fly to help block the
Yeah,
winds
that's
and
true.
whatnot too.
Yeah.
So.
And that's the other thing, don't just take a hammock, you need a rain fly as well. But of course the advantage is if you're in Pennsylvania and it's all rocks, or if you're on a gravel surface or a rocky surface, you don't have to lay on the ground. If you're halfway up a mountain and you're exhausted, as long as there's trees there, you can sleep in your hammock. It doesn't have to be a level surface. Your disadvantage, of course, is you need trees, which usually isn't a problem here in the Northeast, but if you're in the desert, hammock isn't doing it. I guess the other thing I forgot is a bivy sack. So a bivy sack is generally, looks like a sleeping bag, but it would just be like a tarp that's cut as a sleeping bag. And the idea is that you go in your sleeping bag and the bivy sack covers your sleeping bag. It's usually waterproof or water resistant. I know some people that use them. I have had 0 success with bivy sacks. I just sweat them out. But it's really lightweight. You don't have to take any poles. And bivy is typically like more of an emergency type of thing, which I do have like some emergency bivvies that I'll take, but I've never used a bivy sack just for pleasure and comfort. That does remind me one more thing about sleeping bags, and you might notice this with all jackets and stuff like that too. Synthetic fibers continually get warmer and warmer and warmer, whereas down fibers are natural fibers, and they'll typically they regulate your temperature. So if anybody who has like one of those lightweight down jackets that's been all the rage for like 4 years, you can wear it inside. You wear it outside, you come in, you don't feel really hot. People are like, why? You want to take your jacket off? Like, actually, all right. But then if you have a synthetic jacket on, you do just, it holds you continue to get warmer. I don't really know the science behind it or how to explain it, but I know it's true because I have a synthetic jacket and a down jacket, and wearing them when I lived on Gill Street, walking from Gill Street to here, I would notice by the time I got here I was always hot in my synthetic jacket, but I was uncomfortable in the down jacket. So it's just another difference between the two. Side note. Last thing I have, just because it's fun and everyone makes fun of me, I don't know if you missed this part of class or you were here. An umbrella is awesome, and you can use it as a shelter. I haven't had to use it overnight, but I have had to use it like in addition to my tarp. Like that setup I showed you, on the other end, I'll like stake my umbrella down. And this is bad luck. So today, if I was walking around in the woods all day today, wouldn't this be so much nicer than having rain help me in the face? Like, yeah, I got a waterproof jacket on, and it's still hitting me in the face. And then you want to stop for a lunch break, you stop and eat lunch. And this is silver, it's mylar, it's really gotten used, but the idea is for when you're in the sun and you're thin. don't get sunburnt and you don't get extremely hot and overheated. It works really well. It's mainly for the desert, but it works well in the rain as well. And this is like 8 or 10 ounces, maybe 12 ounces. Go Light went out of business. Gossamer Gear makes these now. It's called the Chrome Bill. They're super sweet. People will make fun of you. It's okay. Because they'll be making fun of you as they're soaking wet, and you'll be sitting there chilling out, like drinking your coffee, like, oh, yeah. But yeah, like I said, it's not a full-on shelter, but it is a way to get out of the rain when it's an all-day rain, and it keeps me at least from becoming extremely miserable. Same thing, it's tough in like rhododendron tunnels, but generally speaking, you know, if you're on like some fire road and it's sunny outside or it's raining all day, it's nice to have that umbrella. So, and everyone will make fun of you. Other hikers, hunters, law enforcement, everybody. So, just gotta have confidence. It's all right. So that's really. Does anybody have any questions about shelters? I know that was quick, but I would say one more thing, just between like high quality shelters and other shelters. So this is called a bathtub floor. This is better because it's zipped up. So this is generally water resistant the whole way up to here. So when the rain hits the ground and splashes up, it doesn't splash into your tents. So that's something you want to look for. You don't just want this to be mesh from the very part of the ground. You want a nice high bathtub floor. And the other thing is, how do you guys visualize this? Maybe here you can see this. So see the top, like the apex over there? It is wider than the floor down here. So when you unzip that and it's raining outside and it's dripping off the top of this, it does not drip into your tent. It drips over there and your tent is underneath it. Does that make sense? Okay. And same thing, you won't see that in all tents. And you won't realize it until you've experienced both. And it's a major bummer when it's like, oh man, I'm trying to get my shoes on and I'm just getting soaked. And now everything in your tent is wet. So it's like little things like that. Yeah. And I think, I don't know, we'll get to another day, but the main thing with condensation with all these shelters, especially, well, everywhere, but is you need a chimney for your hot water vapor that's coming out of your mouth to leave your tent. So if you guys understand like water and clouds and stuff, so you have hot water vapor, it comes up here, it cools down, condenses, turns into water droplets, and then it drops back on you. And you're like, how did I get soaking wet? And like, oh, that's actually the water that was in your body, what soaked the inside of your tent overnight. So that's the thing with double wall shelters, they have this double wall, so hopefully that stuff leaves. A lot of times if you can somehow like keep an open chimney-like thing up here with your rain, like your zippers on your rainfly. These ones, they have this new little feature. I think they call it a kickstand. It's essentially like a kickstand. If I can find it. It's on the, it's like near the top as well, and it just makes a chimney. Now I'm determined because you guys think I lie. So if you have this up here, there's this little piece here that velcros, and now you have this little chimney that's taut. And so there's mesh in there. So you're still waterproof, you're not getting rained on, it's not in here, but your hot air is leaving. So that's the whole thing. You have, you know, they're pretty good about having cool air come in the bottom, but you need some way for that to escape. And I know it's more next week. We'll talk about where to camp because it matters as well with condensation and dew. So just to give you a preview, so Camp Craft, next week we'll do a little bit about leave no trace, and then like should you what happens if you camp on top of the ridgeline? What happens if you camp right beside the water? What happens if you camp in shelters? Bermuda Triangle is where you sleep, cook, and hang your food. And then that's more like the tent. You know, you want to be away from smells. And this is more of like how to stay clean and dry, how to avoid condensation, how to wash yourself in the woods without people seeing you and having all kinds of soap going in the water source and stuff like that. 807. Not bad. I drank extra coffee. So yeah, same thing. Like I see, a bunch of taking notes. If you know, I can send this to you, tomorrow or over the weekend, so you can bring this along. So just throw your name on that email list. Yeah, thanks for coming out. And 2 Thursdays from now.
Yeah.
What's that? 24. 24. All right.